Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the GRL podcast. This week it's all about the Netherlands, the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort, which was the 15th round of the season. Um, Unlike last week in Division 1, it actually was not a sprint. It was a classic race weekend throughout all four divisions at Zandvoort. And yeah, Pat and me will go through all the action that has gone on in the last 7 days, or basically last Monday. And yeah, I think like every week, we'll start with Division 1. And in Division 1, we had a new winner in Tekubi from Belgium for Haas. So he won the race after starting fourth, with Welsh Jack in second and Beeford in third. Then we've had Cons in P4, Phoenix in P5, Jubbo in P6, and Atta myself making it a double top 7 for Alpine. Then we've had Exotic Plains in P8 and Rob Kelly in P9, with Jamie Hobbs rounding out the top 10. In the Drivers' Championship, we now have Wolschak, who leads the championship still with 283 points, but he extended the gap to Blade, who sits in 235, just 10 points ahead of Beeford. Then I've got myself, Atom in fourth on 114, Gibson in P5 on 98, 6 points ahead of Rob Kelly, and Takubi then moving up to P7 in the standings, rounding out the top 10. We've got Dylan Baxter, FSC Souza, and FGE Delta. Looking at the constructors, obviously, not too much has changed here. Also, Williams remain at the top with 387 points, and Haas on 355 behind. Then we've got Mercedes, Alpine, and Ferrari completing the top five, while Alfa Romeo remain at the bottom of the constructors championship. Um, yeah, very interesting result for sure, Pat, there, and a few interesting points we picked out. I mean, first of all, yeah, I catch obviously Takubi's first win, um, in the Haas as well, teammate of Blade, who had a bit more of a difficult race. I mean, was this kind of something we could have predicted, or do you think Takubi's win was kind of unforeseeable until this exact moment?
Yeah, it was kind of surprise that he actually won. So it would crawl up the standings for the season. So he wasn't really constantly up the top. So he wasn't really fighting for top spot or even podium. So he was finishing like P7 in around Kota. He was P5 in Portugal. So he was close there. But there was like we've seen the whole season that Welsh Jack and Blade dominate the season. So nobody was actually able to touch them if they had a good day. So they could be winning definitely was kind of surprise, but he showed before that he got that pace, and with a little help of like safety car or mistake from Welsh Jack or Blade, he can actually take the top spot.
Yeah, I mean, Takubi certainly had great pace this week, I think. I mean, he obviously profited from the fact that he was the leading Haas this race. So he wasn't the one suffering from double stacks or being held in the pit lane or even having to play the team game, because he was going all for it. And looking at just the management he did throughout that race, it looked like he had enough spare pace to really go for the win. And in the end, he was the one who kind of avoided Jack winning the championship already, which is kind of helping Blade. But yeah, that's another topic I think we're gonna have to come to. It was certainly some drama going on there for us. Well, obviously, one of the guys won the race. The other one lost basically all championship hopes because he entered the pit lane sitting in P5 still with good chances to win the race. But then after the double stack and the weird positioning of the Haas garage in the pit lane, he was being held, so he dropped down all the way to P16. And I mean, Blade has already lost one championship in back in season 3. Then he came third last season, but out of all the opportunities he might have had, this is probably one of the toughest way you can lose a championship, right? Because just for being held in the pit lane, it just will probably seem like you're waiting there forever, right?
Yeah, it's really unfortunate for Blade. I mean, because probably if he would race in Red Bull or Mercedes, who got the first garages in the pit, he wouldn't get stuck there, or he wouldn't lose so many places. But I mean, yeah, it's not always about your pace. Sometimes you need a bit of luck, and unfortunately this time he was so unlucky, and I don't think he can really close the gap and overtake Welsh Jack in the championship, especially with the form of Welsh Jack, which he's presenting the whole season.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it kept us a bit on our toes. Same for Jack. I mean, it at least kept the championship interesting because I think we can agree. If anyone was going to beat Jack, it was Blade this season because Beeford just, um, except the first part of the season, really struggled to put Jack under pressure. Because just the low grid slots he qualified on before just cost him in this championship fight. While Blade and Jack were certainly the two quickest drivers this season. But yeah, I mean you have to say Blade also started his races in his time zone at 4:30 a.m., which is probably not the best time to go racing when you've just had about 3 hours of sleep. So yeah, I think he'll go again next season. So yeah, lost another championship fight. Certainly not the most luckiest drivers of them all. So but yeah, just a sad moment for him. But we'll see what he can do in the last two rounds of the season. Um, we had now a drive into Kubi had a good race and a driver of Blade who had a bad race. Let's have a look at someone else who had possibly a breakthrough result, and that was Phoenix in the Alpine. He finished P5, and I think we can both agree, especially considering that you, his team owner, that Phoenix struggled since he's arrived in Division 1 with pace. Um, at no track really, it seemed like he could comfortably get into the top 10 at least, and fight for big points. But this week he actually was a provisional pole at some point, and in the race also good pace to finish in that P5 spot. Yeah, he said Zandvoort was his best track, and I think he showed it this week, didn't he? That was a great result from him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Phoenix did a great job for the team. He did a great job for himself. Hopefully, he can break the ice now in Division One and make even a better and have even a better races. So, as we said, that last tracks, he said that it wasn't his best tracks pace wise, so he was struggling a bit with the pace, keeping the pack, keeping himself in DRS. So, and as you already mentioned, that he already said that that was probably one of his best tracks, if not the best track, and he definitely showed that. I mean, great pace for the whole race. At some points, I think he was even fighting for a podium, if I
Yeah,
remember well.
he was. Yeah. He just dropped back at the end. He was fighting with Kont, I think was Phoenix originally, but then Beeford came through. And yeah, then at the end, Phoenix just about could hang on to Jobbo. I think the guys around Phoenix maybe managed ERS a little bit better in a defense and attack mode. The usage of their battery. So yeah. But overall, I think we can both agree that was an important result for Alpine in general because they obviously fight in the overall constructors for a P3. So yeah, I think he might have just let himself off the hook there, because otherwise, if he hadn't had a good result at his best track, I think his team owner might have been a bit angry with him. Well, anyway, yeah, so one Alpine with a good result, the other one myself with P7 after qualifying P6 and actually a good result as well. Um, Actually weird talking about yourself in a podcast, but yeah, it's obviously about that P4 championship spot in the driver standings between myself, Atom, Gibson, Rob Kelly, and possibly now Takubi as well. But I could escape Gibson and Rob Kelly a bit. And with only 2 rounds to go, there is now a gap between P4 and P5 of 16 points, and especially going into, as said, only 2 more races with no sprint to wins whatsoever. That's a healthy gap to rely on, I think, right?
Yeah, that definitely you made yourself in the better position than Gibson and Rob Kelly. I mean, so you just need to maintain your pace and maintain the good spot and make sure that you stay penalty free. So as I said also that you like the next track, which is Abu Dhabi. So
Indeed.
good for you. I mean, I don't know how Gibson and Rob Kelly feel around Abu Dhabi, but as we already know that Division 1 is so close and that will be definitely an interesting battle. So yeah, I mean, if you can keep them ahead for next race and get a gap even a bit bigger, I think you will be in a safe position going to the final round.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be tight. I remember Gibson was quick at Abu Dhabi last season. Um, Rob Kelly obviously was in Division 2 back then. I think he got taken out the last season. So I hope he manages that again. um, and yeah, Takubi. I mean, he seems to be the quickest out of all of us in the midfield there right now. So if he gets another P3, P4 sorted, this will be a grandstand finish at Brazil. Um, but yeah, I mean it's good for those midfield drivers to push along because in the end that also will help the grid to be a bit closer. Um, but yeah, looking obviously to come out ahead would be my best results in like driver standings results in season 2, I think. So yeah, I mean not too bad for missing 3 out of the first 4 races. No, 2 out of the first 3 and 3 in general. So yeah, not too bad, I guess. Um, Maybe I was more in danger of being kicked from my team owner. Anyway, uh,
Yeah.
let's have a look at Division 2, where we said last week Boosted needs to gain those points back, or at Gaitenkas, as he struggled a bit at China with his final change of strategy. But he did, apparently. He qualified P7 after a 5 place grid drop due to the game being not ideal. He won the race with the fastest lap by 8 seconds from Gaetan Kass in second, so not too much of a points gain, especially as Gaetan Kass picked up pole position as well. Then had Sonic in the Alpine in the P3 spot with Sintium in fourth, so he can at least drive. He might not stick to his plans because he should have been here today as well. But he at least can drive for once. So he finishes fourth. Football Lewis in P5, so a good debut from him, with Caesar to Wizard in P6, Rom Lawn in P7, so he beats his teammate Lloyd again, with Thomas in P8, Raven West in ninth, and Joe Pilk in 10th, and then we had, I think, 10 drivers not reaching the checkered flag, so that's obviously not ideal for them, but I'm sure the other 10 will not mind too much. In the driver standings, we've got Gaiten Kass remaining in the P1 spot with 266 points, while Boosted is 18 points behind him, so still within a race win, which is crucial, as we've only got 2 races to go, obviously. Raven Western in P3 with 187 points, and he's only 6 points ahead now of Thomas. Some Pikachu has basically retired from the season, sits in P5. Then we've got Sonic in P6, only 9 points behind the former Ferrari driver, with Caesar to Visit in P7 on 108 points. And then rounding out the top 10, we have the rejoined Wargasm, who's now in Division 3 again, Parker in P9, and Eric hanging on to that P10 spot, just 6 points ahead of the flying Lithuanian Aaron Lawn. Uh, Looking at the Constructors' Championship, McLaren here are leading with 350 points dead on, with Alfa Romeo on 327. So also here it's pretty tight. Then Mercedes, Ferrari, and Alpine are rounding out the top five, with Aston Martin at the bottom of the standings. Well, as said, Boosted has won at Zandvoort by 8 seconds in a wet race all the way throughout. I mean, he basically means business for those last two rounds, doesn't he? He's not finished with this season just yet.
Oh, definitely. He still probably have a lot to do in the last round. But I mean, if he can repeat what he did around Zandvoort, he might close that gap even with Gainzkas finishing P2. So pretty much, if he can, let's say, win both races, get a pole on in both races, and the fastest lap. So even if Gainzkas finish second in both races, they will be equal points at the end of the season, if I'm right.
Yeah,
So that is mean the battle for P1 is still on and probably will carry on until the final round. So that Division One is probably the one to watch if you are looking for a constructor, not constructor, for a drivers championship.
yeah. I mean, I feel like I don't know. It's Boosted was a bit inconsistent. I feel like at the start of the season, but if you look at the last few weeks, I feel like he's made another step in pace. I mean, he would have likely won the China race or at least finished in the top three, while Gaitenkas was really in a midfield fight. And this week, I mean, he was behind Gaitenkas like by 6 grid positions, but not only to catch up to him and pass him, but also to gap him by 8 seconds on the final stint. I mean, that's something. Also, if it's a wet race, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. We know how hard it is to overtake and get a gap in a wet race. So and he did that. He did it brilliantly, and he just showed to everyone that he's not done yet, and he will fight for the championship until the last lap of the season.
I mean, it's a bit difficult to figure out because obviously Guides and Cass is leading since the start of the season, and Boosted is hunting him down. So obviously you could say in this way, Guides and Cass is the one who has more to lose. But then again, Boosted is a defending champion from Division 3 last season. So he's obviously the more experienced in GRL. So you could say he has the chance to win two in a row, like two drivers' titles in general, which nobody has done ever before. So in that way, you could say he's the one who would lose, and who has more to lose. How do you see this? Who is rather the defending part, and who is the attacking part when it comes to who can win more easily and who can lose more easily?
Yeah, so it's a tough one. I mean, Boosted obviously he's trying to get his second championship in a row, and but as I said before, that no one ever done that before in GRL. So if he will not, nobody will blame him.
Yeah, that's true.
So he's actually, yeah, he can lose, but I think not that much as Gaten Cash, as as you said, he was leading through the whole season. He was maintaining that first place. He was extending the gap. The gap was dropping down, but he was still sitting P1 for the whole season. So now, if he will drop out of that P1 and lose the championship in the last round, I think that will be one. That will be a tough one to take.
I mean, we had it before in Division 1, I remember. Sora in Season 3 took the championship lead round 1, and lost it at the final in Brazil. So that would be heartbreak if that was going to happen to Gaiten Cass as well. And yeah, it can happen. Boosted is certainly meaning business as said. But yeah, I mean, something else we figured out is obviously Sonic filled the third spot on the podium, and it actually was his first podium of the season. And he was really quick in the wet. He could hold off Sintim, who also had great pace this week. And it looks like the Alpine driver is finding some extra pace now towards the end of the season. Obviously, he has been very unlucky at times, but when he when he kind of had the ability to keep his front wing and all of his four tires stuck to the car, he seems to be pretty rapid. How do you see Sonic in the last few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, in the last 4 weeks, Sonic definitely showed that he's definitely in the right division, that that he was played correctly. So that you've got the pace to fight for podium, you've got the pace to fight in the top of the field in Division 2. I mean, we all know how close Division 2 is this season. So, and he's just showing that if everything goes well for him and he's staying, if he can stay out of trouble, I mean, he's definitely one to watch. If you've got him in your rear mirror. So yeah, first podium of the season. I'm really happy for him, especially that he brings a really valuable points to the team, and yeah, he just showed that he can still drive fast.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, no, that's what the first Division Two podium for Alpine since I think Clever won at Singapore, and yeah, God knows how he's won that race back then. Um, but yeah, great race from Sonic. I said in the wet, he had to work his way up and seemingly did that, especially at the exit. I saw it on stream. He was really gaining a lot compared to the guys around, and certainly not just reserves, especially drivers like Thomas or Caesar to Wizard, who are known for their great pace. So yeah, really strong drive from. I think he's Hungarian, isn't he? So yeah, great drive. Certainly.
I won't say that because I don't know.
Fair. um, well, you mentioned trouble, and someone who could be in trouble is the man who's currently in third of the drivers, and that's Raven West. He finished only in P9, which is only half of the story. He obviously had a broken chair, so he kind of get used to driving the game in a bit of a different way. But yeah, the former champion who was going for back-to-back championships this season is now in danger of losing P3, considering he's only 6 points clear of Thomas. I mean, especially after such a tough loss at China, of him basically being out of the championship, to now possibly lose even the third spot and not even be part of the top three this season, would just rub salt into the wound, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean Thomas. We've seen Thomas that he's he's just driving also consistently in the last couple of weeks. So out of last 3 races, I think he finished twice in P5.
Mhm.
So he can definitely be there. He can get valuable points. So Raven West need to find his way to fight for higher spots if you want to keep P3 in a championship. So as you already mentioned that if he had a broken chair and he's struggling a bit now. I mean, I understand that because I am not sure how I would drive without my chair. But still, he need to find a way to fight for higher positions if he want to maintain that P3 at the end of the season.
I mean, he picked up a drive-through at the start as well, which I guess does not help your race in any way or form. But yeah, I mean, with that, he actually took Ollie out as well, which didn't help either. So yeah, just a race to forget for him. But maybe Abu Dhabi and Brazil are tracks that suit him a little bit better than Zandvoort. But yeah, that's Division 2 done. So many talks about the top three.
What's
Of course.
factors?
Yeah. So in Division 3, we had something happen that was certainly completely unforeseeable because the top two were AJ Nolan and Karen. AJ
What's the price?
got pole and won the race. With a 108.2, which was a very, very quick pole time, to be fair, for Division 3. It was like 3 tenths clear of Karen in second, who also came P2 in the race. Then we've got SodaStream in P3 and Hayes in fourth, who wasn't too happy with SodaStream's team at that race, I believe. Then we've had Maka in P5, Alexis Beast and Juice making it a double top 7 for Aston Martin. Tweaky Scorpion in P8, who seemed to have great pace generally this week. 10th Cannon in ninth, and Tirkod in 10th, just ahead of his teammate from this week, who was Skeefy. So in the Drivers' Championship, we've got AJ Nolan in P1 on 229 points, and Karen in second on 188. Then we've got Barbarino, so basically Kai's Babu in third, with Hayes in fourth, Maka in P5, Tirkod in P6, Koi in seventh, and then we've got still behind Stone Shuffle, Bob, Frog, and Katie Jack. Looking at the team standings, meanwhile, we've got Williams as well, leading with 287 points, which is 16 points ahead of Alpine, so they've stretched that gap a little bit further. Freppel 265 in third, and Aston Martin in fourth on 240 points, while they have a bit of a gap to AlphaTauri in P5 on 209. Well, AJ wins in Zandvoort then. Just looking at the Drivers' Championship, because he's obviously extended the gap to Karen once more, not only by getting that win, but also by getting pole position, which is obviously an extra point. I mean, that must feel really good for him, right? Because that was a pretty big step towards the championship for him.
Yeah, that was like a milestone for him this race, as he won. He's now like 50, almost 50 points ahead of Karen.
Yeah.
So that means that he pretty much needs to only finish 4 races around top 10, which we know that he can probably easily done this season. So if he does that, then probably he will just take the championship before the last round. And yeah, I mean, Karen still he did a great job joining in mid-season. I believe it was a mid-season,
Yeah.
and still closing the gap massively. And I'm not gonna lie, he made AJ sweat a bit in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
he picked up the pace again.
I mean, the thing that I think many people did not realize, the biggest threat in this race in Division 3 was the fuel. Because the amount of people that ran out of fuel in the last 2 laps was incredible. Even AJ was close. I think he just ran out towards the line. But Karen was catching AJ, I think, really up until the last 3 laps, because the gap then was like 1.9 seconds, and Karen had 3 lap fresh tires. But he had to lift and coast and was out of fuel, so the gap then was like 8 seconds at the end. But I mean, if Karen beats AJ that race, that obviously turns the championship a bit further around, and that would mean that there would only have been a gap of like 30 points. I mean, still nice cushion for AJ, but would have certainly made it closer. And yeah, fully agree. He certainly made AJ sweat, but I think it's certainly a bit calmer now at the front. But yeah, Karen certainly spiced the championship up. Indeed. Two other guys though that had some great races lately are the two Aston Martins of Alexis and Juice. I mean, they've brought home decent points for Aston Martin with P6 and P7. And obviously, it's a bit unrealistic with AJ doing so well, Hayes and you doing well, Hayes doing well, uh, you at times actually finishing races, obviously. Um, but yeah, they've got two drivers now. There's a potential chance to mix up the constructors championship for Aston Martin, isn't there? And if the others just keep just bumping into each other, they'll turn up and say, if nobody wants this constructors championship, we'll take it. No sweat.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 50 points difference between P1 and P4, where Aston Martin is sitting. There's only like 47 points gap. So that isn't big considering that we've got two drivers. I mean, everyone except Alpine. So
Yeah.
yeah, watching that everyone's got two drivers, two races to do. So Aston Martin still probably have a lot to play in that constructor championship in Division 3. So yeah, we've seen Williams made a little. They extend the gap a little further this week from Alpine. So there's 16 points now, but yeah, I'm not gonna lie, 16 points. It's not a lot considering two drivers, but with AJ performance last couple of weeks and the whole season, it might be hard to actually get that spot from Williams.
Yeah, it's certainly it will be interesting. I mean, coming back to Aston Martin, I mean, from the outside it might not seem that amazing, but considering the fact that since the start of F1 23, the Aston Martin team from last and this season have basically turned into a realistic 2021 Haas from Mazepin. Um, that is quite amazing because they at least got two consistent and fast drivers in this division, even though the rear end of Juice in that qualifying session looked very, very shaky. Alexis as well. His strategy was very, very interesting. He did 17 laps on soft tires in the first stint. I mean, aren't you surprised as well that he somehow got those tires 17 laps without one of them popping?
Yeah, I mean, he not only take them for he not only ran them for 17 laps. I mean, he kept himself in DRS from with hard runners for 17 laps.
Yeah,
So that's quite amazing. I mean, those tires were probably around 90% of wear
yeah,
on lap 17, and he still kept himself in DRS. I mean, that's quite amazing.
yeah. I mean, both of them have had some good form lately, which is obviously good to see. I mean, we'd like to have Aston Martin a bit closer to the midfield. Because overall, in real life they're doing fine. I think they're like what fifth, fourth best team, depending on Alonso's mood. But yeah, I mean, obviously we can hope that they are a bit closer after Abu Dhabi, and then we've got a real forward fight for that constructors championship. Um, yeah. Talking about competition, Wargasm has rejoined GRL and he's back in Division 3, and we obviously don't know his pace as of the current state. But looking back at the start of the season, I mean, I think he could certainly be a force to be reckoned with in those last two races. He's just joined Alfa Romeo for those two races as well. What do you think? How's he possibly gonna do?
It depends probably. He said that he didn't really play the game for last month, so I'm sure he didn't lost all his pace, and he still got some of this pace there. So he will be definitely not closing the pack. He will be not crashing around like me. But yeah, if he will put a bit of practice in there, I think we might have really interesting races. The last races in the front of Division 3.
Yeah. I mean, I think in Division 3, before we wrap Division 3 up, it is very interesting right now, isn't it? Because there is a really big amount of drivers who can fight for a podium. Probably for P1, it's rather between Karen, AJ. Could possibly put Tillman in there. Don't know. Possibly Wargasm again. We'll have to see. But there are drivers, I said, like Alexis, like Juice, Hayes can be up there. SodaStream, I said Tillman, obviously. Um,
Even Maka can be up there.
Maka, of course, yeah. So certainly several drivers who can fight for those top 5 positions easily. So yeah, what's your opinion on how the competition kind of has changed since the start of the season?
Yeah, I mean, when we started the season, there were pretty much only two drivers fighting for a win. So it was Wargasm and potentially AJ Nolan. But now, I mean, as you said, the grid is just so packed with the good drivers, consistent drivers that they can do really well in the race. So it will be definitely interesting to watch how they do, as we know that most of the guys at the front, they are just clean drivers, so they are not like overacting during the race. They are not really getting frustrated really easy. So they usually drive with respect to each other, and that will be definitely really entertaining to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And I personally can't wait for those last 2 rounds. I'm sure Sora will have a detailed look at all the skill issues going on. So that's going to be interesting. But yeah, let's move over to the final division of the week and of basically the whole season, which is Division 4. And in the Dutch Grand Prix, we had a Dutch winner in Skion who won for Red Bull, the current Red Bull team owner. And we've got Flasher in second for Ferrari and McMessy in third, so the Alfa Romeo team owner in his first Division 4 race, picking up a podium. Freezy then in fourth, he actually crossed the line first, but a post-race penalty demoted him to P4. Now we've got Erna in P5, Ricky Bobby in P6, who put McMessy into a wall, which is obviously always highly appreciated, but only if it's McMessy because he deserves to be put into a wall. Quick Mick then in 7th, Monopole Monster in P8, Matthew in P9, and Chase Street rounding out the top 10, exactly where I also started the race. In the Drivers' Championship, Brown Spuns has not turned up for Zandvoort, but he remains at the top of the standings with 193 points, so just below the 200 points mark. Mason Roth then in second on 176 points, 6 points ahead of Erna, who himself is only 4 points clear of Quick Mick in fourth. So this championship is certainly heating up towards the end of the season. Flasherden in P5 with a second place, he now sits on 150 points. And then we had J Street in P6 on 131 points, with Stubbs in 7th, Nuki Boy in P8, Vettel in P9, and Mike Reed in P10. And looking at the Constructors' Championship of Division 4, we've got Alfa Romeo remaining in P1 and actually extending the gap as they sit now on 291 points. While Mercedes move up to second with 269 points, 9 points ahead of McLaren, while Red Bull promote themselves to P4 and Williams sit in P5, just ahead of Ferrari, Haas, Alpine, who dropped 2 points themselves, AlphaTauri 9th, and obviously Aston Martin at the bottom of the team standings here. I mean, Freezy obviously won the race according to the game, but the post-race penalty demoted him to fourth place, meaning Skion, the Division 7 champion from last season, wins his first race of the season, and considering he started P15, that was a sensational drive from the Red Bull team owner, wasn't it, to bring that win home, especially at his home track as well.
Yeah, that was definitely a special day for him and a special race. So I believe that he wanted to do well around this track, and he actually did a great job. I mean, we can't say anything bad now, as yeah, driving from P15 in Division 4 and driving up to the top and getting a win after the penalty. I mean, that's something that's not happening every race or every couple of races even. Something like that per division happens maybe like once, twice per season maximum. So that will be a definitely race to remember for him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he probably wanted his teammate to do well too, because Mason obviously is in a championship fight, and if Brown and Spun's missing this particular race, it was basically the prime opportunity to gain points on him. But you've seen it on the clip as well. What has happened? I mean, Mason somehow with safety on the safety car, so double yellow flags with like 3 laps to go, has just put the car into the barriers and done his best, and that feels so bad as Leclerc fan. His best Charles Leclerc impression by just bottling it at the worst possible timing, and basically made a crucial mistake in his championship charge. I mean, no matter what happens from now, if he wins it or not, you cannot make such crucial mistakes, can you, if you want to win a championship?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're fighting for a championship, you need to take the advantage of every mistake of your opponent. And I mean, Brown's best. I mean, he just missed a race, so that was definitely a that that felt before the race probably like a 3 points. And
Yeah.
in those races, especially, you need to do well. You need to get the points. You need to close the gap as much as you can. You need to get as many points as you can. So because your opponent actually don't have an answer to that. And at this time, yeah, he just bottled it. So that probably feels so bad for him. He's feeling bad, but from the other way, Brown's best probably was up the roof, seeing that Mason Roof actually DNF'd.
Yeah, I mean, for Browns fans, it's a dream come true, probably, because that's probably exactly what he wanted to happen. Just Mason to not score any points. But yeah, something that both of them probably don't want. Ern and Quickmick have kind of joined the championship fight a little bit because they've had the good results. I think they finished fourth and fifth, and they're now pretty close to the top two. I mean, Erna is now 23 points away, and Quickmick 27 from Brown Spun. So if the Mercedes driver is not having two great final rounds, I think those two are certainly the ones who will say, if Mason is not ready to take that championship trophy, we are there to go for it. What's your opinion on those two?
I mean, they definitely joined the championship fight with only, as you said, 26 points behind P1 in the championship. And we just know how let's say unexpected is Division 4. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you can't predict who is going to win, who is going to be on the podium, and that only spices up the things in the championship. And yeah, now if they can take the top spots or even P3 spots in last 2 rounds, and Brown's best will not do as well as he was doing last times, and Mason Roof again bottling it in the worst timing of the season. I mean, they can definitely be there at the end of the season. So they're doing just really well. They closed the gap in the last couple of races, and they've been somehow consistent in the last races. And if they can get their teammates to play a bit of a of a team game, I mean, they can definitely take the glory at the end of the season.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it would be ideal if they get like Earn and Quickman get like a 1-2 at Abu Dhabi, just to get them all within a race win of points. Because then we would have a grandstand finish to the season. Well, I say that, and then probably Browner Spence just decides to get pole fastest lap and win the Brazilian Grand Prix. But yeah, would certainly at least give us a good old ambiente for the Brazilian Grand Prix if Ern and Quickme could close that gap a little bit more, and obviously also Mason could stay close to Browner Spuns, because you can say what you want about Browner Spuns, he's always been on it this season. He's always a consistent points scores. So yeah, someone has to stop him, and best thing is probably to get pole and then just try to escape the carnage. But yeah, I'll have to see. Someone who we would have thought at the start of the season to talk about quite a lot about his great performances is Stubbsy and Williams, and we've also said that Williams are not doing great in Division 4, and maybe Stubbsy is partly a reason for that because, as I said, he was a favourite at the start. Now he's 60 points off P3, which is more than 2 race wins. Could you say possibly that also for him, maybe this season, season 5, is a big disappointment considering where he stands in the championship?
Yeah, he's definitely not really happy from his performance and his position in the championship. But yeah, I mean, he was just like kind of inconsistent this season. So he was struggling a bit. He got only one win during the season, only 3 podiums, and only one fastest lap. So he wasn't definitely doing as well as he wanted, and like everyone expected him. So maybe that was like too much expectation from him, and that just get him down, and he couldn't handle the pressure that he had at the beginning of the season, or he just simply didn't put enough effort into this season, and he thought that because he's in the lowest division and he's one of the favorites, so he'll probably have an easy walk through the season. So yeah, it's really hard to say, but definitely he's not happy with that, and yeah, I mean,
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Maybe a bit too much expectation just ruins your season. That's had as well. That's a very good point. But yeah, I mean, maybe he's got a bit more in him for the last 2 rounds to end the season on a high. And then we've got at least 5 people who are going to fight for the top spot. So yeah, that would be good to see. Um, to wrap this up, I think we're gonna have, like every week, a look at the overall constructors championship, where we've got Williams in P1 on 1,084 points, and Mercedes on 1,041. Then in third, we've got McLaren on 957, 30 points ahead of Alpine, who themselves only 26 ahead of Haas. And we've got Alfa Romeo on 864 points, so they are well within reaching distance of the 3 teams ahead. And we've got Ferrari in seventh on 823 points, and Red Bull on 797, with AlphaTauri in 736, so they're like 61 behind, and Aston Martin in last and 664. Well, looking at it from top to bottom, I mean, we said last week that it looks like Williams can control it, but now once again, Mercedes have had a really good week, despite Freeze's penalty in Division 4, and no matter what happens, you can at least say, right, that Mercedes is doing the damnedest to keep Williams honest and tell them, if you make a mistake, will be there and will take that P1 spot off you right at the end of the season.
yeah, I mean, Mercedes looking so strong, and it looks like they are just playing the game with Williams, like like they are just trying to maintain those people to just make a spectacular finish in the last round and grab the overall constructors championship. So they are just maintaining that gap, and they are just closing it a bit and a bit, like trying to feel Williams comfortable and then just fire up at the end of the season. So 43 points. That's not a lot at all. And I mean, considering that they Raven West in Division 2 didn't do really well, considering his last races and the whole season. So Bronze Benz in Division 4 didn't race, so they still lost a couple of points in last round. So that fight is not over yet, and Mercedes definitely will make some steps to get that win at the end of the season.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure Mercedes will try the best to make it back-to-back overall constructors wins, which would certainly make the team owner Beeford very happy, who we've also seen is looking to be team owner once again next season. Question will just be at which team, so we'll have to see how that goes. Um, yeah, so McLaren obviously keep the gap to Alpine and Haas in the overall, as they remain in P3. Could this possibly mean they've found good form at the right moment, or possibly just one breakthrough weekend? But Haas and Alpine are still there. How do you think? How's this going to pan out?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen for the season that, especially in the last weeks, that Haas and Alpine, they've been closing the gap to McLaren just by a bit every week. And now they are within the striking distance to McLaren. And McLaren had a decent week last Monday, but if they can keep it on form, so they might maintain it. But if they will make a mistake, there is definitely Alpine and Haas behind them and they are just waiting for them to make a mistake. They had a one bad week, so they might lose in one round even 2 places in the overall constructors.
Yeah, I mean, if we look further back in the standings in the overall constructors, it was middle to end of March where Alpine were 100 points behind McLaren, so really big gap they closed, and Haas 1 week later even were 200 points off McLaren. So they have gained at a rate of knots, really. So they've really done well, of Haas. Yeah, I think as well, Haas and Alpine look a bit stronger at this moment in form. I think the last week, because obviously there were less points again, no sprint and everything. It was a bit easier for McLaren to get back into the rhythm than it was for the other teams because Alpine and Haas obviously got many drivers who were out in the midfield, so they had good positions in the sprints. Well, they needed good qualifying again at Zandvoort, so I think that played a factor as well. Well, Alpine had a couple of good results in Division 1, Division 2. McLaren, I think, overall performed nicely. Also in Division 1, though, with the team owner Jobber. So, yeah, I agree there that Alpine and Haas are certainly not going to stop here. Another team, though, that is kind of between the midfield groups is Alfa Romeo. Then again, it looks like they are a bit too far away from P3 in the OCC. How do you see this? What should Alfa Romeo focus on? Just scoring consistent points, or somehow go all in those last 2 races and somehow force yourself into this P3 battle?
Yeah, I mean it's really hard to say as they still got almost 100 points difference between them and P3 with only 2 races to go. But across 4 divisions with training the new drivers like we've seen in Division 3, they've just signed Wargas who can do really well in Division 3 and get them a decent points. But also they are just fighting for a top spot in constructor championships in Division 1 and Division 2, I believe. So yeah, if they can score decent points and Haas, Alpine, and McLaren, they will drop some points. They definitely will be within the striking distance to them. But as long as McLaren, Alpine, and Haas will keep it consistent and they will score decent points, I don't really think that Alpha will be able to close the gap to them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but obviously to gain on one team is kind of easy, I say, because you have one team to focus on. They need to lose points there and there and there, and that's how you gain. But the chance of 3 teams scoring less points than you with only 2 rounds to go, like something has to happen to them because you don't have in many divisions that suddenly exactly those 6 drivers do badly, right? You kind of need to rely a bit on the realism there.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the chances are really slight. I mean, they might they might look to get one position at the end of the season if one of the teams will get a bad week and they will drop a lot of points. Then yes, they might be looking to get a P5 from one of the top teams. But I don't really think that those three teams, looking how consistent they were for the whole season, I don't really think that they will drop some massive points to get Alpha Romeo back fighting for P3.
Yeah, no, for sure. Similar situation for another team that has to gain a load of points, but not to get off the bottom, like the low end of midfield. It's literally to get off that 10th spot, and that's Aston Martin. I mean, if you look at it, Aston Martin are now 70 points away from AlphaTauri, who sit in P9 of the standings. I mean, is there somehow a chance for them to get off that 10th place, or is it just meant to be that this team on F123 just cannot deliver in GRL?
I mean, I don't would say that they're not meant to be in P10 in this game because what happened to me last season with Alfa Romeo. But yeah, I mean, they're definitely one to watch also. They scored decent points last week, and they've closed that gap to Alpha Tauri. And if they can score a consistent points and big points in last 2 weeks, they can definitely have a jump from the ground and get that P9 out of Alpha Tauri.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it will be interesting, and they've got one advantage to Aston Martin. They've got a team owner. Well, AlphaTauri still have no proper team member like playing the team principal role. So they obviously at times don't have a full-time driver and a spot for one or two races because nobody realizes it. So yeah, maybe that's something Aston Martin can build on. That they've got the base with Koye, and he kind of knows what he's doing. He's had a great season with AlphaTauri last time out. Just Aston Martin not quite clicking for him. But I mean, obviously those overall constructors' standings influence the draft order for next season, and without wanting to look too much into the future, I mean, of course, it's not that much of the team's fault, but if you finish 10th 2 seasons in a row, you obviously lose in the draft order. And like that, I think Aston Martin will find it difficult to really find a team owner who's going to say, yeah, I'm very interested in the job. How do you see this? I mean, you had your own experience with Aston Martin as team owner for most part of last season.
Yeah, as you said, that once you are there at the bottom of the standings, it's really hard to jump back from there. So they will need really someone special and the person who knows drivers, who knows how to run the team and how to bring them down and get them some decent position in overall constructors. I mean, there's definitely in applications one name that possibly can do that, and we both know who I'm speaking of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I won't say anything, nothing confirmed. So yeah, it will be tough one. So they definitely need a special person to run them and help them to just get some good position over constructors.
I mean, it's also one of those, isn't it? I personally, since the team owners are around, I'm a big fan of when you just stick to a team for a while because you kind of build a legacy around that team. I mean, we can see it in GRL as well. I mean, Jobo has been McLaren team owner since day one. Beeford has at Mercedes. Um, but I think it's a bit different when you literally take over a team when it's right at the bottom, and kind of try to evolve it towards the midfield and then the top of the grid. because it has some realism, doesn't it? Because if you look at real F1, Red Bull, when they joined the sport in 2006, they were nowhere near a podium or something. They had a dreadful car. So yeah, now they're winning championships, one after one. So if someone can be found to fill that spot, I mean, I would like Aston Martin to be further up the front because it was obviously make the championship closer. But yeah, I mean, applications are out. If you're eager for an Aston Martin and you're watching this, then yeah, I would give it a go. But
Yeah,
yeah,
if you think that you are a good person to help them claim up the constructor standings, just put application in and see how you will do.
yeah, I mean, the good thing is they can't drop further in the standings. So, so
At
well,
least I want positive.
yeah, I mean, you can only win. Um, one more thing though, also connected with the applications. Obviously, all the team owner reviews have been out and so already. And Bray, who currently is team owner of Haas, and it kind of was his contract that expired, considering he said, yeah, he's not too sure he wants to continue with Haas. And looking at the current form of Haas, we said last week, this is shocking news for them because no matter how bad kind of they started into the season, because I said they were 200 points behind McLaren at some point, they've come back in some form and are now trying to get third in the standings. I mean, Bray signing up again for that Haas team owner spot is going to be a blessing for them, if he stays there, isn't it? Because he seemingly can do something with that Haas team that Günther Steiner couldn't manage.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, as you said, that he's at the moment building his legacy around the house. And looking at the last season that he was finishing P3, P3, and P3. So he's definitely he definitely got a recipe to be at the top with the house and make drivers doing well for the team. So he extending his contract, that's definitely a good news for us, as yeah, as Bray know how to do, and Bray know what to do with the house to get them up the top.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I personally prefer the team owner signups almost more than the driver signups because it kind of changes on how teams evolve. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting for sure going into next season. But maybe Haas just need that stabilized surrounding of Mr. Bryant Core. Who, yeah, thank God, is only team owner, not driver. Otherwise, they would be rock bottom of the standings, I'm sure. Um, but yeah, um, that's it for this week's podcast. I mean, we've that was a quite long one this time, I think. Next week, we're obviously gonna head to Abu Dhabi, where it's certainly gonna be a bit hotter than it was in Sandwood, and there probably is not gonna be any rain whatsoever. And if there is, I'm sure it's gonna catch some drivers off guard. Um, but yeah, until then, we say thank you for watching, and also thanks for Pat being here. And yeah, I mean, I said, see you then when GRL returns.